Hi, everyone. It's Chris Cavalli from Callagy Law. I'm here today with David Nachman of NPZ Law Group. That's Nachman, Polwani, and Zamovchak with their home office out of Ridgewood. They are immigration lawyers, and I'm speaking from our family law department. The attorneys from Callagy Law, Family Law Department, and NPZ Law Group decided to do some informational videos, short informational videos on topics that affect us and families in this challenging environment. We're calling it advocating for families. And again, we want to address issues that are germane to the times we're dealing with right now and things that we're seeing in our professions. So how you doing, David?
Okay, not too bad, Chris. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you.
Safe, sound, and virus-free so far. And we hope that everyone in the audience, of course, is the same, right?
Absolutely.
So we had an opportunity, Chris, to kick things around a little bit. And we found that it was really interesting because there were a lot of synergies between the family-based immigration law practice and obviously the domestic relations practice. And so, we're in very interesting times, unprecedented times. And, we were talking earlier today, and one of the things that we found that there were sort of unique synergies between the two areas of practice on is the area of domestic violence and how we handle it versus how you handle it. But can you tell me, Chris, and obviously to the folks out there in the viewing audience, what are some of the changes, the recent changes that we've seen in the current environment with regard to domestic violence practice and substance?
Sure, David, and it's a really challenging time because we're seeing now, and I've read a number of articles and seen a few segments on victims of domestic violence actually being quarantined with their abusers, with really nowhere to turn. There are people out there that have no family members. There are stories about people sleeping in their cars, and it's really, really sad. So everyone needs to know that the courts are open during this time. It's not business as usual, but domestic violence and restraining orders are emergent issues that will be heard. The biggest difference now is that temporary restraining orders, TROs, need to be obtained through the local municipality. So if anyone is a victim of domestic violence, the first thing you do always is call 911 or call the police or go right to the police department and report it. The police will help you get a temporary restraining order. Tell them, I want a restraining order. I need to file a restraining order. The local judge of that municipality will hear it on the emergent basis, and if you meet the requirements, will enter a temporary restraining order. As usual, the temporary restraining order will be then returnable before a superior court judge. However, it is my understanding that right now, those hearings are being put off. Eventually, we may see those hearings go by way of video conferences or telephone conferences. But as you might imagine, it's really hard for a judge to gain the credit, assess the credibility of a witness on video or telephone. So right now, they're really putting them off, which basically just extends the temporary restraining order a little longer than usual. However, also be mindful that if you've been accused of domestic violence and have a restraining order against you, there is an emergent appeal process, and those are being heard by telephone by the superior court judges. Now, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't seem like they're going to overturn those and let the accused back into the house if they've been removed from the house. But if there was no contact with kids or no parenting time, those are issues that the court will probably deem emergent and will address by telephone on that day or maybe the very next day. So there is an appeal process to deal with emergent issues within the temporary restraining order itself. And then if the judge feels necessary, will issue an amended temporary restraining order until the final restraining order hearing can take place. So that's kind of a primer, just a little breakdown of what's happening now with the changes. So it's a little bit like business as usual, but definitely a little different because you have to go through your local police department and municipality. So David, how do issues of domestic violence impact your clients?
Well, I was just listening to, your explanation there, and I'm thinking, I thought I was the only one who wasn't getting any sleep. And I'm thinking, you must get calls round the clock all the time on issues like this. I mean, it could come at you at any time of day or night. And it's sort of the same in our world, is that we get these calls round the clock, day and night, from clients who are dealing with all kinds of issues, where our worlds sort of collide, or our, to use the lingo, where our ecosystems collide, is in a way where once you have, I guess, taken the client through the procedures that are necessary for obtaining the documentation and information to demonstrate that there is in fact a need to restrain, or there is in fact an event of domestic violence. If that individual is a foreign national and they're in the United States and they don't have status, there's a very interesting tool which is called the U visa. And the U visa is a very powerful visa. And the reason why it's so incredibly powerful is because the individual doesn't have to leave the country to pick up the visa. They can actually be out of status and in the United States. And what they can do is, if they can prove that they are victims of domestic violence, that's one of the crimes. Actually, a U visa is for victims of certain crimes. And so there's a whole list of crimes, probably about 13 or 14 different crimes, which range from felonious assault and blackmail and unlawful imprisonment, but domestic violence is on that list. And probably a vast number of the U visas that we do is based upon domestic violence. And so what we're faced with is, how do you prove it? And so obviously we need to work, and in your explanation, it's really helpful for me to understand what the various elements of the procedure are, because it helps me to understand what the evidence is that I can garner to bring to the forefront when I file the application with the government to ask for that individual to be granted the U visa. It's helpful for me to know. So usually we'll tell the client, okay, we need a copy of the restraining order. Or if there was some type of actual violence to the person, we need a copy of the hospital record, or we need copies of, certain documents to demonstrate that they actually were victims of this crime. And
Okay,
then,
so I have a question, if you don't mind me interrupting. Given the lag that's going to happen now, inevitably, between obtaining the temporary restraining order and not getting to the final hearing, and therefore the final restraining order for perhaps months, can you proceed with a temporary restraining order, or do you have to wait until we actually get a final?
that's a great question. And obviously, I don't want to give you the lawyer's answer, but it would be a case-by-case basis, of course.
Right.
What you have to do is you have to look at what the evidence is. But I don't think that you have to have anything but a temporary restraining order. And even if the temporary restraining order doesn't become permanent, that's okay, as long as we have what's called an LEA, a law enforcement agent, that's willing to sign what's called a supplement B that accompanies the application for the U visa. That's the uphill battle for us, because every jurisdiction has its own separate protocol for having these supplement Bs signed. So
Right.
as long as I have, even if it's a TRO, if I have a complaint, if I can get the court documents where, I guess the documents underlying the issuance of that TRO, that's going to be tremendously helpful too.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. That's great.
So ultimately, the U visa is, again, a very, very powerful tool. It was created for the purposes of allowing individuals who are in the United States, who are out of status, to speak to law enforcement without fearing that there's going to be some recourse to them, because we want to protect these people and not give them, we want basically to protect these people from the possibility of being, deported, even though, because they're reporting violence.
Right.
So that's why this U visa was created. So again, for us, very, very powerful tool. And this is where we work very closely with domestic relations lawyers like yourself, and we help our clients to understand, again, what evidence there might be. And you probably have a file. Obviously, if you open a file in your office, you're going to be taking documents in, statements by the individual, all sorts of things. If we go in the direction of videos, those videotapes will be tremendously helpful to us, and we can do still shot, something like that. Sure.
Great. Okay, well, thanks. I think that was pretty informative on, and certainly those issues of domestic violence definitely touch upon both of our practice areas. And we're going to try to, in our series of videos, again, advocating for families, to touch upon family law and immigration issues where they sometimes merge, sometimes they don't, but certainly knowing that NPZ Law Group right down the road in Ridgewood and Callagy Law in Paramus, we have officially merged our ecosystems and we're working together. You are now our go-to immigration firm, and I think hopefully we're your go-to family law firm. Just know that Callagy Law and the Family Department is open for business. Although we're working remotely, we all have, we're all accessible. We have a dedicated phone line for family law, and that's 201-800-4981. Again, 201-800-4981. As the dedicated phone line, you'll get a live person, probably Jackie, our paralegal, will answer that and direct the call to whichever attorney you need. We are doing new cases. We, like today's video, we are doing a lot of Zoom meetings. We are also, I'm a court approved mediator, so I'm doing mediations also via the Zoom app, which has proven to be pretty effective. But whether it's a new divorce, a post-judgment issue, we are seeing a lot of custody and parenting time, mostly parenting time issues arising given the challenging times. We are expecting and already have seen a few financial issues. People are unfortunately losing their jobs and taking pay cuts during this time. So all of those issues are relevant and we're here for you. We can be reached, we can meet on the phone, via Zoom. If necessary, we'll do emergent applications such as the domestic violence applications. Hopefully that's not necessary. But again, we are open for business. And I'm sure, David, your firm, we've been talking the last couple of days, and I think one of the times we didn't connect until almost midnight. So I know you're super busy.
We are super busy in this environment, and probably, actually, Chris, you touched on the areas which are of tremendous importance to many of our clients, is that a lot of people are getting laid off, furloughed, terminated as a result of the inability to do business. And so, of course, that affects foreign nationals much more than anyone else. So our phone has been ringing off the hook. Bottom line is, we're lawyers. We're here to help. We became lawyers because we're here to help you. We're here to help all the viewers. And we're here, of course, also to advocate for family rights.
Great, thanks, David. So look forward to our next video. I think maybe your partner, Luka Zimovchak and Brian McCann, will be asking each other a few relevant questions. And well, until the next time, Chris Cavalli, David Nachman, and we're advocating for families. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Take care now.